How are you planning to balance fatherhood with work?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in balance. I think that the best people are imbalanced, and the whole ideal of balance is very peculiar to me. I don't know how I'm going to balance. I've never balanced. It's not something I do intentionally.
Any advice that you've read, heard, been told about preparing to be a father that you feel like hit hard for you or really hit home or changed the way you think about it?
I don't know. He's not here yet, so everything I'm saying is more like the things that I know, right? Support systems for your wife or your partner, whatever that might be, right? That is probably everything. As a founder, I'm working way more than I probably should, and so there's always sacrifices that have to be made either from me or from her.
Hey everybody, this is Cayman with Merlin Mines. We're back for another podcast. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and this is probably going to come out a good bit after we record it. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but this is just going to be a conversation with me, Cayman, and with the founder of Merlin Mines, Walter. Walter, how's it going today?
It's Friday. We've got family coming in, so it's a really good day. It's going to be a lot of fun, and awesome. I'm hoping to have some really good food, some good company, and even better margaritas. I think that's the current trajectory.
What's the food item you're most looking forward to eating this weekend?
This weekend? Well, today we're doing an Azteca platter, which is like a Mexican platter full of all sorts of burritos, tacos, etc. And it's killer. I always eat too much, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then we're doing barbecue for the baby shower tomorrow, actually.
Nice.
Which will be cool.
Awesome. That's something we'll chat about a bit more in a bit. And then also critical, what's your margarita of choice? Is it from a specific place or is it making it yourself? How do you order it?
No, I've recently learned how to make it, and I know you as the bartender are going to give me slack for it, but I found this really good lime mixer. So I do it's 0.75 ounces of triple sec, 1.5 ounces of good tequila, and then 0.75 ounces of the mixer, and good to go.
Nice. Okay. That sounds solid. All right. And for anyone else who's a culinary or beverage nerd here, for free, I'm going to give you the best margarita recipe. You want to have 2 ounces of a good tequila, or if you're really cool, a good mezcal. 3/4 ounces of dry curacao is my orange liqueur of choice. I do just a 1/4 ounce of sweetener, agave syrup or any fruit syrup, a full ounce of lime. And then for extra bonus points, either a salt tincture or just like a pinch of salt in there. Shake the hell out of it, strain it, serve it in a frozen glass. Frozen glass is critical. Nobody wants to drink a warm margarita.
Can confirm that recipe slaps super hard. I've used it a couple times. It's just half the time I don't have the things on your list, and this is really simple and really easy. So that's why I do it.
Oh yeah. I'm not judging. I'm just making my official margarita stance known to the world.
Let's go.
Great. So as of the time of recording this, we've recently started Q3 for Merlin Mines. So I haven't done a podcast in a bit. It's July 11th when we're recording this. This podcast is probably going to come out a bit after recording it. And part of the reason we're doing this ahead of time, this was already referenced, you're preparing for a baby shower. It's because you're about to be a dad.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, so I'm going to be going on paternity leave about the time, I don't know, when this is coming out. So I wanted to make sure we just had some content and some ideas that we can kind of scale through Q3 to kind of talk about things that the business is going through, what we're going through, and what we can expect going into Q4.
I think one of the interesting topics that people get a kick out of hearing about who are your position as a founder or just a working professional and they want to become a father, or it'll be likely relatable to the other fathers out there, will be how are you preparing for this? And so this is one piece of this, is prepping for paternity leave, and I can chime in on it too because I'm helping out a lot with it. But I think that's a really interesting thing, is to have started your own company a couple of years ago, and now you're needing to prep to step away, which is the right thing to be a dad.
Right.
So yeah, talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing to prep for being out for a bit.
Yeah, so I want to preface with when man plans, God laughs. So all of this is being done intentionally with room for margin, because you don't know what you don't know, and to plan a child's birth is pretty silly, because they're going to come when they're going to come for the most part. So for me, for the business wise, the things that we're doing, we've got like a succession plan, and we've staffed up a bit on all of our contracts to make sure that we have extra headcount to account for me being out. We have kind of got a new director of operations, or pseudo director of operations. Not quite sure who that is, but someone has stepped up. That's Cayman, to kind of take care of things while I'm gone. Which is cool. So all the ops things, which is also good because it's kind of forced me to develop culture in a way where I was just kind of doing it with vibes, which is unacceptable. We've also started preparing the dev team to kind of have extra like project management support, and to have, a normal sprint cadence that's kind of mapped out for the month that I'll be out, to make sure we can still hit all our deliveries. So I think that's kind of the high level, and we can dive into whatever you think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you did a good job of hitting the high level pieces of that. So yeah, you're right. I'm going to be taking over on a lot of the operations stuff. If you've ever seen any of these videos before, or noticed my total absence on anything technically focused, it's because I'm not a developer myself. You don't want me writing your code unless it's incredibly simple and you've got a week.
Right.
So I'm going to be stepping up on a lot of like operation stuff and managing the different people and different aspects of our contracts, which that's a really big part of what Walt does. And then, as he'd referenced, empowering different contractors, kind of staffing up to fill kind of the lead technical roles. So having the people who've been here for a long time, able to kind of stay in their lane, but have somebody they can escalate to, having some people with some of the higher level tech skills to fill in for some of those Walter gaps, and having some kind of stepping up some of the project management systems so that we're not reliant on Walt playing whack-a-mole all day, every day. And, the ultimate goal of that is to let him entirely focus on being a father, and building in multiple redundancies so that ever reaching out to him while he's on paternity leave is very much a break glass in case of emergency type thing. And, trying to mitigate as many of those emergencies as possible.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, we've got most of the technical team in place so that a lot of this is business as usual. I think the really interesting piece is just realizing how much I do every day to kind of like keep the wheels on the bus, and being able to kind of systematize that and get that into a place to where when I come back, it's like not all back on me, which will be nice.
Yep, absolutely. And that's been part of the long term for the company for a bit. And I remember us talking about this before you'd ever started a company, is for many founders, they end up taking on such a big workload. And it starts as this very scrappy thing, their company. And as it grows, it's always difficult to like relinquish those different pieces of control away and build those systems, especially if, it's been working so far type thing. But that's like an important part of scaling, is, empowering other people. And you and I both know founders throughout our career who've just refused to ever relinquish that control.
Right.
And it drives them crazy, or has them stressed, or, kneecaps their ability to scale. So it's almost like you having a kid is kind of forcing you to now on a timeline do something that was always part of the plan,
Right.
and to do it now in like a structured way. Like there is much more of like a deadline, instead of like, oh, eventually we should do this. Now it's like, no, like we like actually got to do this in it soon.
Right. Literally. Yeah. So that has been a really interesting, coming to Jesus moment of like, you can't carry everything yourself, and the scaling thing I think is really interesting, because a lot of the times founders are like, oh, how can I scale? But in reality, you are the reason you're not scaling, because you won't give things away, and you don't have the right people around you to take those things away. So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to getting to focus on the baby, and then when we come back to actually get to focus on building product, which is what I'm certainly much better at, than kind of doing everything because we've had to.
Yeah. All right. And like talking about that, after the baby arrives, like how are you planning to balance fatherhood with work?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in balance. I think that the best people are imbalanced, and the whole ideal of balance is very peculiar to me. And I don't know how I'm going to balance. I've never balanced. It's not something I do intentionally. And so when I think about the world when, there's more of us in the household and things are moving around, I anticipate that things will be imbalanced to help him, things will be imbalanced to help the company, and that pendulum will swing back and forth because I don't know, there's just no such thing as balance.
Okay. Yeah, I that makes sense, and I imagine as it goes, you'll have a support system,
Right.
both at work and in your personal life, and I think with these types of things, both with work and with personal life, you'll have. I see what you're saying about like imbalance because like there will just be like critical times where you are needed personally
Right.
more, and there are going to be critical times where okay, that's like smooth sailing, but like this other this thing at work, this contract, this really needs a lot of attention right now.
Yeah. Everything comes in cycles, right? And it's just my cycle to go and be a dad, which is cool. And so when it's time to cycle back into founder mode, we will, and we'll make it work, and we'll find the best path forward.
Nice. All right, so I feel like you've hinted at this before, but like you've wanted to be a dad for a while, and that's like part of your plan. Was starting Merlin Mines, was that part of that plan, like having a company, like having a way to support your family or like something that can grow to do that, like how do those things intersect in your mind, or do they at all?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I had never intended for Merlin's Mines to exist. Merlin's Mines, just like, my soon to be child, are forcing functions in my life. And the whole idea of like having a family business is certainly something that I don't anticipate. I don't anticipate to have a little, coder man running around having a good time. But this is the only job that I have actually, felt growth in. And I've been doing this for a while. Like we've been full time here for over a year, a little bit over a year. And it's been so much fun. And every day, even though I'm like doing this all the time, I love it. And the idea of going back to traditional work, although it's cool, it's something I don't think I'll ever do. Not because I don't think it's valuable, but because I'm better at building teams and products than I am at building other people's teams and products. And so we should use that to our advantage, even though it's painful. Because at the end of the day, whether you work for the man or you are the man, the pain is the same. It's the perception that changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's like a big perception difference between like you said, like working for the man and building someone else's dream versus building something for yourself and like the people you care about. Like that's right. I've very frankly talked to you about that before I came on. I think at point blank told you that you were one of, I think, 2 or 3 people in the world that I would ever be like ground floor starting a company with,
right.
and like want to do the startup chaos again, because I've spent most of my career with startups at different phases, but with that like this work is so much more enjoyable. Like I really like everyone on the team, and you feel like the things you do have more impact, and they're exciting in a different type of way, and it makes me much more willing to really bust my ass whenever you can see the rewards for like this small group of people, and and care about everyone, compared to busting your ass for a mega corporation where at the end of the year all you've done is move one of the thousands of needles they have. You've moved one needle just like a tiny little bit.
Right. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that there's a lot of value in that also. Sometimes you just need stability. But I can say, like, I wish I had brought you on a year earlier. It's like you don't realize, like, that's the whole, like, 0 to 1. And I'm not going to be the founder who comes and talks about you to 0 to 1 or ask you what your MMR is or whatever. But the reality of the situation is you need the right people on the bus. And it's important to have people that are, very good at what they do and are non-technical. Even though as a technical founder, like the ideal of like everything has to be technical all the time leads you into a situation where you lose the human element. And especially in today's age where AI slop is kind of everywhere, it's very easy to forget that we serve people and not machines.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been a wild thing for me to learn about, because I've mostly worked in tech, always focusing on the people side of it and just getting into some different fairly niche tech, and now interfacing, not taking a B to C angle, but like a B to B, or like interfacing with the government. It's a wildly different world, and it's interesting all the different people you bump into. Like some of those people are, you're like, yeah, everything is technical, But then so much of it is meeting these different people that are, say, your end users that aren't wildly technical, or different founders who have a different type of background, or having to interface with, say, like a government or a large corporation bureaucracy, and like how much how much there's like interpersonal things and like systems outside of the code end up mattering a lot. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's different. It's like basically the technical like apparatus is just the pay to play of the world that we're in, because it is so peculiar and niche, and government procurement is so slow. It was never the field. Quite frankly, it's only about half of our field now, which is nice. But it was never the intent to continue to service this. But it's very difficult to kind of step away when you know the things you do actually impact people and help keep them safe or help them get where they need to go. And you get to see that change in the world, where it's like, it's almost worth all of the paperwork.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thinking about like the fatherhood side of things, I have like a few questions related to that.
Yeah.
Any like advice that you've read, heard, been told about preparing to be a father that like you feel like it's like hit hard for you, or like really hit home, or changed the way you think about it?
I don't know. He's not here yet, so everything I'm saying is more like the things that I know, right? Support systems for your wife or your partner, whatever that might be, right? Like that is probably everything. As a founder, I'm working way more than I probably should, and so there's always sacrifices that have to be made, either from me or from her. And so just making sure that, your partner is supported and they have what they need going through the transition is really, what we have to take care of. Going above and beyond, finding ways to make sure that, for example, like one of the things we do now is we get, a couple extra like meals prepped, either from a service or from ourselves ahead of time. So days when like it's my turn to cook, but I don't have availability, like we can still have like healthy, nutritious meals to make sure that, just because I can't be there doesn't mean like quality of life for us or her is getting compromised. So one of the big things I'm finding is just like, it's either you pay for it now or you pay for it later, right? So either you pay for building out like support systems around you to support you when you both are going to be, healing, recovering, adjusting, etc. That way you have something to help you, or you pay for it later when like, the stress, the trauma, the change wasn't prepared for, and now you're paying for it on the tail end. And so that's kind of been my, lessons learned so far.
Nice. I think that sounds great. Yeah, I appreciate your highlighting your focus on like building out support systems and kind of like redundancies and such, like with meal prepping, which, even as someone who's not a dad, that's a super important thing. I'm now trying to get in the habit of like meal prepping something big in like either giant batch of pasta, or like something like in my Instant Pot or whatever.
Right.
For exactly those things. Like I will often plan to cook 3 or 4 nights of the week, like on weeknights.
Right.
So I'm trying to like cook more meals, or like more days that I'm not cooking meals, but also I try to have like a big pot of something tasty and healthy for those times where I got to work late, or I've got to practice or something, and I don't know, something needs a little bit more extra for me, in that I'm not sacrificing and skipping a meal, or my partner isn't either. We're not, getting some like takeout that's either unhealthy or expensive.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of like how I sell it to myself. It's like I was going to go out and get something terrible anyways, like Taco Bell, which I love. The Gordita Crunch demons are reaching out to me far more often than they should these days. But the big thing there is, it's like you were going to spend, $20 anyways on trash. So just get a meal prep service. It's the same price.
Yeah, I think solid tip. All right. This is probably going to be like a post-child arrival thing, but I'll ask it anyway. Anything you've learned from your parents, or your dad even specifically, that's like kind of like made you approach this in a different way?
Parents in specific, it's fun to see him with my niece now, and like how he's operating with her. She's growing, and she is vibrant, human, and very loud, which is cool. And it's very fun to see how he operates with her versus how my mother operates with her. And sometimes he's just kind of like, you gotta let him cry, you gotta let him figure it out. And I think about that a lot on like, you see the funny reels of like, oh, like you won't get to pick your kid's trauma, and I'm like, well, that's fair. and not in like a cruel way, but like, kids are gonna hate you for silly things like, like taking their bananas away and like telling them they can't play with their dinosaurs. It's just gonna happen. And so, the lessons there is it's like sometimes it's important to either, same lesson, same thing. The theme today is pay for it now, pay for it later, right? So either you pay for it now and you build systems and things to kind of help the child develop, or you kind of let them run wild and you trade for it later. So I think that's the lesson.
Yeah, I think pay for it now or pay for it later is a really great thesis. I think that applies to, almost everything. Very few results in life, come at the cost of nothing.
Right.
If they're worthwhile, anything worth doing, worth having.
Yeah.
Any result is going to require some type of investment up front.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. I think of like the like investment in things. I think one of the most valuable resources is time. How's your perception of time warped around all of this?
I don't even know how to answer that question. Like, time in general seems like something that someone very dear to me said and still says all the time is like, if it's important to you, you'll find the time. And so it's less about having time and more about understanding like where you have to spend it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've also found that like tasks for the most part will grow to the amount of time that you've given them, plus or minus like, building an entire product, but maybe that will change now that we can vibe code. So time is this like elusive thing that we never have, but we always have. And so when I think about what's going on with time and how we manage time, I don't think that's really the right metric, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm inclined to agree with that too on, the amount of, the task will always grow to the amount of time you allocate for it.
Right.
I felt that in different ways of that can either be a decision of like, okay, how much do I want to invest in this thing, or the kind of the other side of this, like for me, something that I love and hate about myself is I work best under pressure.
Right.
And whenever there's pressure, whether I've put it on myself or someone else has or something external has, is whenever I tend to be the most efficient. And as long as it's not too much pressure, I feel like that's usually when I get my best quality to time invested ratio.
Yeah, I think that's always interesting too, right? Because there's this like, especially in the culture that we've grown up in, it's very easy to, we've been conditioned since birth, and this is something I think about more and more as we get closer to having the kid. And the thing about that is our system is designed to condition us to be in this game at all times. And we don't feel productive unless we're playing, which I think is the plight of the American corporate regime. And so the thing I'm noticing is like finding time to not play this game and finding ways to think about systems for him that will allow him to play the game without being a servant to it. And so that's something I see, at least I'm more conscious of now as we continue through the game, because it's not always about, optimizing shareholder value and like feeling like you're productive, even though you don't have to be. Like there is such a thing as just like not producing, and it's okay, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. One of this is an original from her, but a quote. But one of my favorite things that my partner ever told me, because I also get trapped in the productivity trap. And I remember one time her looking at me and saying, "Cayman, you need to remember, you are a human being, not a human doing." Which is a little bit cheesy, but I was like, damn, you're right.
Yeah.
Like it's okay for me to just do nothing, it's,
yeah.
And that's something I've worked on over the past couple of years, are having hobbies that aren't solely related to productivity. Cause, as you can see from everything all around me, I'm a musician and I play in bands. And so whenever I'm playing music, that's something I love and it's entertaining to me, but there's always like still this like background of like, I should be not playing, but I should be practicing or writing or like producing something for one of my bands, or like trying to advance a skill. So even something I've been working on doing is finding time with, for instance, my music, to just enjoy it for what it is and goof around with it, or have like other hobbies that just don't really matter for anything. Like, you and I are lifelong gamers, and it's cool to have some games where it's like, yeah, nobody, the system, the like my financial planner, my friends and family, they don't care if I just beat Cyberpunk 2077 for the second time.
Right.
But I enjoy the hell out of it, and it helps me recharge.
Yeah, and some of your best thoughts come from your subconscious. And when you are constantly conscious, you never have time to hear those voices, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so when you're stuck in it all the time in operator mode or founder mode or monk mode, whatever mode the kids are calling it these days, it's important to realize that you have to, take time, by the water or wherever, like the mental version of being by the water, to just kind of like sit and be. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's wild how I feel like one of the craziest things that I will do on occasion is I like podcasts a lot. I like music a lot. I've always got something to listen to. But sometimes when I'm feeling like extra crazy, or maybe if I've just been a bit overstimulated, I'll drive around not listening to anything, and just kind of let my thoughts wander. And it'll be, or doing the same thing like out on a walk, and it's wild, like the different ideas you have that'll pop into your head. Like I've had something like pop into my head out of nowhere for work or for a musical project, or even this week be like, oh man, my partner's birthday's coming up, and it hit me out of nowhere when I was just like taking a walk. I was like, oh, I know what we're gonna do for her birthday this year. Where like before I was like looking at all my notes and I was like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I do that with Hemi. Hemi's my dog. When I take him for walks in the morning, I do my best to like, first things first, I'm a chronic Instagrammer, and so I definitely do my best to uninstall that during the weekdays so that I have to like be engaged with the nothingness. And walks are cool. It's a really good way to clear your mind before you, chug 400 milligrams of caffeine and lock in.
That's a lot of caffeine. Is that normal? Is it actually 400 milligrams?
Personally, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Heard that. I'm not a caffeine guy. All right. Any so something I've always thought you've been like really good about is daily rituals. And as you already said, when man makes plans, God laughs. But got any new
But we show up anyways, right?
Yeah, you got any new rituals planned for that you're hoping to implement for whenever the kid's here, or you're just gonna have to see how that pans out?
Yeah, it's all in the air. Like, I think the biggest thing is going to be routine. I don't know what that routine looks like yet, and it would be silly of me to be like, yes, and we're going to do this, and everything's going to go according to plan. I don't know.
Okay.
We could have a kid that has colic, right? We could have a kid that has whatever, and that has some sort of need that forces us into a different, plan, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, two fun sides of this. And you can think like more of the immediate term or just like the long term, but like, what are your thoughts on like introducing the kid to like the world of tech?
What, I don't know what that means.
Like like technology or creating tech, or just like, I don't know. You and I were nerds when we met at a young age and already obsessed with tech, which was like fledgling home computers and Game Boys and the N64, and I don't know. The tech is so much more different now and like more pervasive and miniaturized. You got any thoughts on that?
I think my ethos for technology with children is a little different than probably what you and I grew up with. I think for us, and I'm gonna tell a story first because I think it's easier to kind of build the picture. Before us, right, when our parents were kids, a lot of the home computers were like newer. They were more niche, and like there was a lot more like MS-DOS or like, I don't know, terminal type IBM things, or even the old Macintoshes. And the reality of the situation was you had to create in order to enjoy the consumption of a thing, right? And today, a lot of even the like small things are optimized for the tech enthusiast to be the consumer instead of the producer. And so if you think about, like you've already said it, like, when we were kids, we were into Game Boys and we were into PlayStations and we were into all sorts of things. I kind of want to get back to the basics of what it means to be a creative who's involved in technology and not a consumer who's involved in technology. And so for him, I want to do my best to enable him to understand, simple logic loops and things that, and this is going to sound so like nerdy, but it's like, what's the easiest way to teach kids about computers? Like, let's like get some light bulbs and put some colors on them, right? Like on and off, like simple binary operations, right? Like let's do geometry by building blocks and things like that, like things that kind of empower, the new person to create, right? Getting into computers and things like that, I don't think we'll do a lot of, iPads or screens or things like that. We'll probably do, like robots they have to put together, and then maybe it has some sort of interface that's like clunky and manual on purpose to encourage that like old world's so crazy to say, but by the time he's old enough to, have the conversation, we'll probably be at the 75-year anniversary of like the first Apple computer or something, right? So really it is kind of like a legacy mechanic that I think is lost by our generation, and we need to get back to it.
Yeah, I love that. Something that really impressed me that I saw last summer at a festival here in Atlanta. There was like a big summer fest at Piedmont Park, and there was a strip set up that was like kids and education focused. And different vendors, companies, schools, and came out to do different interactive things for kids. Like for instance, like the aquarium had like some like marine education, but Google was also there, and one of the things they were doing was an intro to coding for little kids like aged like 5 to 8. So I walked over, I was like, how are we going to teach a child of this age to code? And what they were doing were using different, basically introducing like simple like logic loop ideas, and using cool, colorful shapes and charts and paths to teach kids how to think like that, which is, I think, really cool. And I hope we can continue seeing more of that in the way kids are taught about technology, because it's like, we need to pivot more and more away from our education system that was kind of like built around like setting people up to like work in like factories, or like kind of like do like repetitive tasks. The way we came up in school is very focused on like memorization and just like busy work and putting the time in. And so the more, I'm excited to see more of these things where it's teaching more critical thinking and different types of like abstraction or like logic loops, and introducing that at a young age, because I didn't get introduced to that until, I don't know, I was like in nerdy like programs like 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
Right. And by then it's like the younger years are easier to learn and to develop, and I think that it's sad that this isn't taught in a way that makes sense. And now that I've gone through the rigmarole of like acquiring this knowledge, I think it's really interesting to think about for someone who's young. It's like, how do you teach someone, and this is like silly, but it's like, how do you teach someone about like a depth first search, right? Or like, what does it mean to have a first in first out queue, which like all of this sounds like very computer sciencey, but if you think about it, you go through it every day in your life, right? When you look at like the first in first out queue, you open up your fridge and you look at the stuff in the fridge, right? What's the first thing you grab to eat usually? I mean, unless you're like looking for snacks, when you're like deciding what to prepare for dinner, you usually grab the oldest item and you pull it out of the fridge and you take care of it, because it's going to go bad if you don't, right? It's a first in first out queue, right? Like it's not difficult. It's just like the language is bespoke almost intentionally to make it difficult for people to acquire that knowledge.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like kind of centering that and those things that are, you're right, like the system of doing that, like you'd be like, that's very natural. It's just like the language is a little bit unnatural, and the more we can like implement it.
And we had that a lot. Like when I finally went to graduate school and I was like I never finished my master's, by the way, but like when I was going through that, a lot of the like algorithms for the initial AI, like workflows for like reinforcement learning, and a lot of the things that just kind of make out basic neural nets were taught in like Greek alphabet, right? Like old school, like legacy math. And I'm not saying legacy math because it is legacy. I'm saying legacy math because it's taught in a way that's meant to be universal, and it's meant to be able to last the test of time, which I think is awesome. I'm not here to like bash like having reasonable symbols to represent like logic, but it is very unattainable for someone who doesn't have that background to understand what that means. And so in a world where a lot of the algorithms literally are Greek symbols, You almost have to learn a separate language just to understand the logic of what it is. And so finding a way to say that with common tongue is very important to make sure it's accessible, especially in a world where we have these like universal translators that can just tell you what it means in English.
Yeah, yeah, and that's almost something that there's plenty of AI slop to go around, but that is something that like I really appreciate of these tools, is that in ways they are getting back to kind of like simplifying a lot of language and kind of like removing the gatekeeping behind it. There's the amount of knowledge where it's like, oh, only like these type of people can like know it, and like, oh, you got to have so much background info to like even begin to understand it. Having these tools that can break things down in plain language and also help you like that can help identify, be like, okay, how much do you know, and kind of like gauge where you're at on that.
Right.
That's something I think is like really cool.
Yeah, I'm here for it. There's always this thought of like, oh, the next generation has the opportunities, the last one didn't. But I think it's very interesting to think about how like, and for automatons and like golems and things like that, right? Like we're almost at a point where 3D printing is accessible enough that most people could, if they wanted to, like buy a 3D printer, go and get a couple Raspberry Pis, a couple like mechanical modules, and like actually start building robots and mechanics for like teaching children how to do that. When I think about the future, that's probably what will become like the reality of jobs for people in the next 5 to 10 years. Building these automatons, having them do cool things, having them work around, like we're actually moving towards like an almost steampunk era of opportunity, which I think could be really interesting.
The possibilities with 3D printing and with like self-education are so interesting. Like it's wild to hear you talking about like the scope it would take to to really break into that, and it's like a lower barrier to entry than like something in our small town plenty of dads did, which was like working on cars. Like it's that level of accessible now, where I'm a musician, I have way too much music gear, and for much less than I spent on getting a cool sounding guitar rig, I could have a 3D printer and all the tech to run it.
Right, and it's like if you don't know how to do it, you can talk to these universal translators to kind of teach you the basics.
It'll be wild to see in the coming like next couple of decades, like how much more commonplace things like knowledge of like CAD design and 3D modeling, like how much more common that will be, because we've seen that kind of prior to 3D printing. We've that's been a thing around for a while, like very, kind of industrial focused, and then 3D printing made more people interested in it, and kind of, that was like kind of like a gateway to other things. And so it'll just be interesting as that like expands even more, because that's, I don't know, it's just such like a different, cool thing to me, especially when it was so very niche, where, a couple decades ago, the only people doing that were people working, on like airplane or like military equipment parts and stuff.
Right. For the most part, I think the ones that look really cool, like especially for like little kids, and this is like this is pie in the sky. This isn't real yet, but I do see this starting to come to fruition, where it's like, okay, you're a kid, right? I don't know, you're 5. You get your first chore. Maybe you're in charge of like, I don't know, I'm going to use one that's just like, you're in charge of mowing the backyard, right? And it's like, okay, cool, I've mowed the backyard or whatever, and you find a 3D printing model to basically like build a 3D like lawnmower, like a miniature lawnmower. I don't know if you've seen them. They're called like the turtles.
Oh, no, I thought this was like a totally made up example. No, I haven't seen that.
No, this is real. There's like a Raspberry Pi mod where you have to buy the for like a, what is it called? It's like a weed whacker.
Yeah.
So the bottom of the weed whacker goes on the bottom of this like sphere that you print, and it has 4 wheels and they're diagonal. And what it does is there's a sensor that you mount on the bottom, and it just literally is solar powered. So you buy the solar power component, you wire it to the Raspberry Pi, you wire the Raspberry Pi to the module that spins the weed whacker, and then it has a sensor that you put on it, and it literally just walks around your yard, finds weeds, and like cuts them.
What? It's like a Roomba for grass.
For grass, yeah. And so like things like that, where it's like, okay, cool, like for the price. I don't know. I know it's a silly comparison, but like for the price of a last generation console, you could teach your kid how to build an automaton
Yeah.
that removes the chore from their life and gives them opportunity to create, which I think is cool.
Yeah, that is so neat. That's cool. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go look that up. I need to be careful. I'm gonna find myself buying a 3D printing setup before the weekend's over.
Right. Let's go.
Cool. Well, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like interesting topics like related to like working in this tech world and being a founder and like becoming a father. So that's probably a pretty good stopping point now. And
Yeah.
next time we'll have some other stuff to talk about like what the year's been like here at Merlin Mines. But yeah, everyone who joined in and watched this, thanks so much. I don't know, got any thoughts on this? Anything you agree
No,
or disagree with, let us know.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Hope you have a good day. Chat soon.